The Indianapolis Colts last year were one of the most surprising teams in the NFL. And with Anthony Richardson returning from injury, the Colts are a popular pick to be a potential sleeper team in the AFC. However, while I do think Indianapolis will be pretty solid in 2024, I don't think they will be as good as some people think, which is what I'm going to explain in today's video. Now, before we do get started, of course, go ahead and hit that like button if you guys end up enjoying the video, since it really does help out the channel. And of course, subscribe if you guys are new and you guys enjoy content like this. That way you don't miss out on any new videos like the one you're watching right now. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get this thing started. Now, before we do get into my concerns, I do want to start off with their positives. For one, the Colts' offensive supporting cast is pretty good. Their wide receiving core is quite solid, as Michael Pittman Jr. is one of the best wideouts in the NFL. Josh Downs had a really good rookie season and has the potential to be even better. And they drafted Adonai Mitchell in this past year's NFL draft, and truthfully, he was a first-round talent that only fell due to character concerns. They also got Jelani Woods at tight end, and he does have quite a bit of potential. And then we also can't forget about Jonathan Taylor, as he's one of the best running backs in the NFL. Along with that, the Colts got one of the best O-lines in the entire league. And it's not just the players either. Shane Steichen is one of the best head coaches in the NFL, and he's a fantastic offensive mind. I mean, he was a massive reason why the Colts shocked so many people last year, and why Indy's offense was still solid last year, despite the fact that Gardner Minshew was their starting quarterback for most of the season. Along with that, Anthony Richardson, I mean, when he did play, he didn't look nearly as bad as some people expected, and a large part of that is because of Shane Steichen. I mean, simply put, he is a really good head coach, and I mean, the Colts, their offensive supporting cast, it is extremely good. Defensively, Indianapolis also does have a really good front seven. DeForest Buckner is one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL, and they also got Grover Stewart at defensive tackle, and he's pretty good as a run stopper. Kwity Paye, he's solid, and they drafted Laiatu Latu in this past year's NFL draft, and he was arguably the best edge rusher in the 2024 NFL draft. I liked him a lot coming out of UCLA, and as long as he does stay healthy, and if he can improve his run defense, I have no doubt in my mind that he is going to be a star player in the league. Now, sadly, Samson Ebukam will be out the whole entire season due to an Achilles tear, but again, they still got a really solid defensive line. Along with that, they got Zaire Franklin at linebacker, and he's one of the better linebackers in the NFL. Then their other starting linebacker is EJ Speed, who is, I mean, he's fine. However, now that I do have my positives out of the way, let's get into my concerns. Now, for one, the Colts secondary is very questionable, to say the least. Now, Kenny Moore, he's a pretty good corner, and Julian Blackmon is a decent safety, but those two are the only proven pieces in their secondary as of right now. Julius Brents, he's a pretty young player, and he does have a lot of potential, but that said, he is a young player who is still pretty unproven, and the Colts, they need him to take a big leap in his second season. Jaylon Jones is their other starting corner, and he's another young guy with some potential like Julius Brents, and he does need to step it up if the Colts want to make the playoffs this year. And then their opposite starting safety, opposite of Julian Blackmon, is Nick Cross. And Nick Cross, he is pretty mediocre and really he's really not proven. Simply put, Kenny Moore and Julian Blackmon are the only proven pieces in that secondary. And how good this secondary is, it really hinges a lot on the young guys. Now, I am pretty high on Julius Brents, but Nick Cross and Jaylon Jones, I'm pretty unsure about. Let's now talk about Anthony Richardson. His rookie season, although extremely short, wasn't nearly as bad as people expected, and he showed a lot of flashes of what he could be. Now, many people in 2024 expect him to take a massive leap, and that's one of the main reasons why they think the Colts will be a massive sleeper. And while that is certainly possible, I don't think that will happen this year. Now, make no mistake, Anthony Richardson has all the potential and all the tools to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he was like a top 5 pick for a reason. And he did show flashes of what he could become in the 4 games that he did play last year. But the thing with him is that he was extremely raw coming out of Florida. And one of the biggest problems with him is that he was super inexperienced, as he really didn't play that much in college. And he was a guy who really needed more reps, and he just needed, time in order to get better and in order to reach his full potential. I mean, you had to be patient with somebody like Anthony Richardson, and with him, he barely played in his rookie season, and because of that, he's still pretty inexperienced right now. Like, yeah, he does have some NFL action under his belt, and he has played a little bit in preseason this year, but with that said, he's still pretty inexperienced, and because of that lack of experience, I think 2024 is going to be a little bit more of a developmental year for him rather than like a true ascension and breakout for Anthony Richardson. Again, he did show flashes of what he could be in 2023, but I think he still has a long way to go. I think he needs to put it all together on a more consistent play-to-play basis. I don't think he's going to be a bad quarterback this year, but I think he will be up and down. He will have a few games where he looks like an elite quarterback, but he's also going to have a few games where he looks like one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. I think Anthony Richardson's 2024 campaign will be kind of similar to Jalen Hurts' 2021 season, where, again, he does have some pretty good games, and he does show, noticeable improvement, and he does definitely show flashes of what he could be, but he's also going to have some pretty bad games and, just be kind of inconsistent. That is what I expect from Anthony Richardson, rather than like a true breakout. Now that up and down quarterback play, I think will hold the Colts back, as the AFC is a loaded conference, and good QB play is especially essential if you want to go far in that conference. Now Indianapolis's schedule, I wouldn't say is like the toughest thing in the world, but they do play a number of good teams. As they already got the Texans and Jaguars in their division, the Titans could be pretty solid depending on how Will Levis plays, and I think the Titans will actually be pretty decent this year. They play the Bills and the Jets, and then although I am lower on them, I do think they do play the Miami Dolphins, and the Miami Dolphins, again, while I am lower on them, they are still a pretty solid team. Along with that, Indianapolis does play the Lions and the Packers. The Bears, I think, will be pretty solid, and the Colts face them this year as well. And then lastly, they do play the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, and the Pittsburgh Steelers are still a very decent team. So again, their schedule isn't, like the hardest thing ever, but at the end of the day, it does have, a decent amount of good teams. Now, all of these concerns isn't to say that I think Indy will be a bad team. I do think they will be decent, as Anthony Richardson will have some very good games. And again, they do have strengths as a team. I mean, their offensive supporting cast, as I said before, it's really good. And they do have a great front seven. And I do think the floor for this team is fairly high at 7 wins. And if Anthony Richardson does, truly have like a really big breakout season and is like a legitimately like really good QB, then this team could be as good as like an 11-win squad. However, I do think this team is probably going to win like 7 to 9 games in 2024, as their secondary does have some question marks, and I think Anthony Richardson will have an up and down season. But again, Indianapolis will still be pretty solid. And hey, if Anthony Richardson continues to get better every single season, and they can, improve on those weaknesses, then the Indianapolis Colts are going to be an extremely good team one day. But that's all I gotta say for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. Again, like, subscribe, do all of that stuff, and then check me out on social media. The links to my Twitter, I know it's called X, but screw it, I'm calling it Twitter. The links to that and my Instagram are in the description below. But without further ado, I'm out, you guys.